Hello everybody, today I have two controllers right in front of me and I thought this would be a great addition for my new Zelda OLED Switch here, and I must say both of them looks incredibly great. I mean, maybe even better than the official looking one. I mean, if you look at the official one, it doesn't really match the theme, but as you can see here, it kind of matches really well. I mean, if you want to look at these two here, you can see that the color scheme kind of match it almost exactly the same thing. Although you can also see that the color is a little bit off. This one looks a bit dull, and maybe this one is a bit yellowish. But otherwise, pretty close enough. I mean, this is a third-party controller. Don't expect much from it. But yes, I forgot to mention that this is also by a company, IINE, I believe it's called, and they tend to make a lot of team controller based on certain games. So kind of nice that they make a Zelda one. Now the price for this you're going to get would be if you want to pay for this, maybe about less than half the price compared to the original Pro controller, and this one will be slightly more expensive. And if you don't mind topping up a bit more for this controller, you can basically buy together with a pouch if you want to. You also can add in another controller. I mean, why not? Now looking at this controller here, well, I would say that they have done a pretty good job. I really like the design, matched the theme for the new Zelda game. And well, since this controller is cheap, you can obviously see that I don't think you can pick up in the camera, but around here the shoulder button and the thumbstick are, well, they don't really look high quality looking. And I also don't really like the thumbstick, the surface here. It feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel really nice. This is why I decided to get myself a thumb cap to solve that problem. I mean, it looks nice. And this controller also have a turbo function here that you can use to, do a rapid fire there. I mean, if you're very lazy to keep on continuously tapping, you can just hold the button and it will do it for you automatically. Now obviously looks is not only just important but also the feel of the controller, and I'm happy to say yes, it feels great. Well, I mean, if we are to talk about like if it's as good as the premium controller, then obviously that's not the case, but for what it is, it does the job. I mean, there's no problem with the button pressing, there's no problem with the shoulder button. Joystick is also fine. The D-pad, well, the D-pad, let's just say that the first time I use it, it's a bit stiff around here. I have to do a little bit of grinding around here area just to make it a little bit better. But I'm just going to say that if we try to show it, the way they shape this D-pad, the molding for this one, and I feel like there's something wrong with it. I think it's around the edges here that feels maybe a little bit too narrow, because let's just say for fighting games, this doesn't feel nice. I think it can give me like sore thumb or something like that. But yeah, we will get into more details about this one because there's also something else about this D-pad. Now looking at this one, this is basically the split joypad by IINE also, and this one is the more expensive version. It's still cheaper than the official one, but as you can see, this is like a big fat Joy-Con, and yes, it can also work like a Joy-Con. You can see there's button at the side at the rails here, so you can basically, I guess, make it like a two-player controller. Now again, the quality around here is also a little bit low quality, but one thing interesting about this controller is that, well, you can see the thumbstick looks a bit higher quality. I also like the way they do the top here. You can see there is like a gradual slope towards the middle, which is nice. I think it just feels nice in my thumb there. And you also notice how there's another extra button here, which is the turbo button. And if we look at the back here, we got the back button here, and we got these two extra buttons. Now these two extra buttons is the record button and the vibration button to adjust the intensity of it. Now one thing I just noticed about this one, as you can hear, it is clicky. I mean, the shoulder and the ABXY button, I believe these are micro switches, and as you can see here, everything is clicky. And I believe these are, I think it's dome switch if I'm not mistaken. So basically you got a very clicky Joy-Con, which is kind of interesting. So as I mentioned, the D-pad is clicky here, and I feel like this D-pad is much nicer compared to the controller one here. Yeah, so it can't be said that they don't have this kind of quality on this one, because I think it looks much better. Try to focus it. Try to show you that there is actually a slight difference between these two D-pad, and I think this one is a much better feeling. The molding for this one feels nicer in the hands. There's no really problem much about it, and I think this will be slightly better, especially in terms of fighting game. But again, we'll go into more into details later. Now, something that I noticed about this ABXY button is that there is almost no pre-driver as you click on it. Just trying to show you here and there. If you can see, quite almost instantaneous as you press the button. I mean, this could be a good thing, but I'm not really sure about it because I'm so used towards the traditional button with some pre-driver. I also like to mention that there is a connector for this Joy-Con, and the sad part about this one is that you have to buy it separately. It does not come together in the box with this, which I'm not sure why, but yeah. Kinda wish that Nintendo had done something on the connector, cause yeah, kinda really wish Nintendo has actually done with the connector. Though the sad part is that there's no grip, otherwise it really looks great. But while we're on the topic of the connector, well, there's a sad part about this Joy-Con is that, as you can hear it, it sounds shaky. There's no problem with the official one, so it's actually the Joy-Con, this Joy-Con is not really that tightly fit, so you're going to have a bit of rattle. Even also, if you put it on the console, there's going to be a bit of a rattle, which is kind of sad, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, just also like to inform you guys that there is actually a push to wake up the Nintendo Switch. As you can see here, if I turn it on, there, it turned on. So it does have a push to wake function. The same thing also goes for this Joy-Con here. Just to see if I can show it to you. There you go, it turned on. So yeah, push to wake is there. Another function they also have is that you also can detect amiibo. Just to show you. There you go. Amiibo can be detected as there's an NFC around here. So the sad part about it is that there is no NFC on this one. So I'm just going to show you the problem about this D-pad here. I'm not very sure if it's going to be a very good fighting D-pad, but let me do a Zangief grab. Okay, not a problem, but you notice how I don't have any diagonal input, and this can be a big problem. So if I mean, this is not a problem, but there are some characters that require diagonal input, and well, let me show you another one. Now regarding Ryu here, we know he has some commands that require some diagonal input, and well, as you can see, there are sometimes that I can pull it, sometimes I can't pull it off. So if I were to do a spinning kick, you notice how it's kind of difficult. I have to like really press around here, this area here. So definitely, in order for me to really like press the diagonal pad, I have to really like press around the edges here, in order for me to pull off this spinning kick move. And if I'm not too careful, I will just, you can see that I just can't do it. So I have to really like press into it in order to do the move. Now regarding the Joy-Con here, I would say this one will be slightly better. As you can see, I am able to have a much more easier time to do diagonal input on Zangief. So I'm not really sure whether this is still a good D-pad for fighting, but it's kind of nice. You have a nice click to it, you can have a feedback, and I think you should have no problem using it for fighting game as compared to this controller here. I also like to point out again, as I mentioned earlier, that the D-pad that the D-pad on this Joy-Con feel really nice, doesn't really hurt your thumb too bad, so I think you should have no problem using it. Overall, I think you're going to have a great time with this controller. I mean, they are not really what I would consider the greatest if we were to compare to like maybe the official Pro controller, but for what it is, I think they work fine. I mean, you don't think they look great? It kind of fits in with the theme really well. But yeah, that's it for today. My name is MoTechG, and I'm off to save the Princess of Zelda. Have a nice day!